From childhood, people are misled into believing that discipline is merely a matter of willpower. Persistent admonitions to exert more effort when laziness strikes, to wake up early, and to make lists create the illusion that superficial organization can eradicate deeply rooted problems. However, the truth is harsh and uncompromising. Discipline is not about fleeting impulses or a magical awakening with endless motivation. It is a true war, a battle unfolding within each person. In this war, there is only one outcome. Either the mind prevails, like a prince commanding his army, or one is crushed by their own weaknesses. Most people live like crumbling cities, captured by fleeting impulses, sabotaged by their own chaos, becoming easy prey for the first temptation. They do not realize that without strategic discipline, there is no freedom, no strength, and no victory. Those who cannot bring order to themselves are doomed to eternal servitude to chaos. Niccolò Machiavelli, one of history's most controversial thinkers, understood this like no other. While many speak of positive thinking and self-belief, Machiavelli viewed human nature with cold, surgical precision, knowing that the world does not reward good intentions. It rewards the disciplined, those who, even under pressure, even surrounded by chaos, can maintain control. For Machiavelli, discipline was not a moral choice or a beautiful ideal. It was a matter of survival. Without discipline, both king and peasant were doomed to the same fate: ruin. And here is the harshest truth. The moment one loses control of themselves, they hand over the keys to their destiny to someone else, to some external force, to any impulse that proves stronger than their weak will. Life, like a throne, is never left vacant. Either one occupies their place with absolute dominion, or they will be ruled. If one thinks that discipline means waking up early only on days when they feel a surge of motivation, then they are deeply mistaken. If they believe that desire alone is enough to remain steadfast, then they are deceiving themselves. True discipline requires constant vigilance, strategic planning, and relentless self-control. It demands the construction of an inner fortress, where luck holds no sway, where chaos cannot find a single loophole. Machiavelli did not write to comfort fools. He wrote to educate strategists, to arm the minds of those willing to face the harsh reality of power. When considering discipline from a Machiavellian perspective, one must forget naive notions of willpower based on fleeting motivation. For Machiavelli, discipline is structure, strategy, survival. Without it, even the most promising individual becomes easy prey for forces they cannot control. In The Prince, Machiavelli states, "For just as good order in the militia is the source of good order in states, so discipline is what allows a city or an army to endure adversity." He makes it abundantly clear: without discipline, neither cities nor armies nor individuals can endure. External order, state stability, governmental strength, all are merely reflections of internal order. There are no lasting conquests for those who are slaves to their impulses. There is no real power for those who do not control themselves. With an insight that still inspires awe, Machiavelli asserted that discipline is not a temporary adornment, but reliable armor, always necessary. For him, discipline is the core that allows a ruler to remain unperturbed by the temptations of anger, fear, or vanity. It is the ability to adhere to a chosen strategy, even when circumstances push towards impulsive actions. An undisciplined prince, in Machiavelli's view, poses a greater threat to himself than any external enemy. His downfall is caused not only by the actions of adversaries, but also by internal weaknesses he failed to overcome. Reckless actions, unpreparedness, and thoughtless reactions are a direct path to ruin. Thus, discipline is not something practiced occasionally, but a strict habit, like the constant reinforcement of a wall protecting against inevitable destruction. Machiavelli believed that people are susceptible to the destructive influence of desires, pride, and fear. Only relentless self-work allows one to resist this destructive force, and this applies not only to rulers. Everyone who strives to be the master of their destiny must develop this mental discipline. If the mind is not under control, it is governed by circumstances, emotions, and external influences. And those who submit to another's will, in Machiavelli's view, are already politically dead, though they may not yet realize it. Machiavelli viewed the human spirit as a battlefield, where discipline is the only thing separating triumph from defeat. Imagine an army going into battle without preparation, a clear strategy, or obedience to orders. The result is obvious: a bloody slaughter and inevitable doom. No spontaneous bravery will save soldiers who cannot cope with panic, endure fatigue, and control their instincts in the face of danger. This, in Machiavelli's view, doomed mercenary armies and weak states, the absence of true discipline. In his Discourses on Livy, Machiavelli notes, "Undisciplined soldiers do not obey the orders of a wise commander." This is not just an observation of military actions, but a profound psychological principle. If the mind is like an undisciplined army, no conscious decision will be carried out. One can make plans, set goals, promise changes, but if thoughts, emotions, and impulses are not trained to obey, they will betray at the first test. One will sabotage their own decisions and betray their ambitions. Military discipline, for Machiavelli, is the key to victory, allowing the few to overcome the many, the weak to surpass the strong. A small but disciplined army always surpasses an unorganized crowd. The same holds true for a person's inner world. A few well-organized thoughts are stronger than 1,000 conflicting desires. True power lies not in an abundance of ideas, but in the ability to skillfully implement them. Engage in ruthless self-analysis and recall how many times you have failed, not due to a lack of talent, but due to a lack of self-control. How many promises made to yourself remained unfulfilled? The reason is not a lack of ability, but weakness in the face of fatigue, fear, and doubts that took over. Like an incompetent general losing battles before they even begin, one suffers defeat in the war of life by refusing mental discipline. Military discipline is waking up daily with unwavering resolve, regardless of how one feels. It is following established strategies, not fleeting emotions. It is acting despite physical pain and emotional fluctuations. For victory comes only to those who do not retreat in the face of harsh trials. Machiavelli understood that victories are achieved not by brute force, but by relentless order, constant vigilance, and preparation that anticipates any surprise. The same applies to the mind. The modern world extols feelings, neglecting discipline, which is why so many people lead miserable lives, seeking blame externally. But now the truth is revealed to you. To become the master of your life, you must become the general of your own inner army. Train your mind with the same ruthlessness with which Machiavelli would train his troops, without mercy. Excuses or concessions. For on the battlefield called life, Indiscipline is equivalent to a slow and agonizing death. If discipline is the foundation of virtue, that inner strength capable of shaping one's own destiny, then it is necessary to understand how Machiavelli contrasted virtue and fortuna, skill and luck, discipline and chaos. In Machiavelli's harsh and realistic worldview, fate appears not as a just entity rewarding good and punishing evil, but as a blind, relentless force, like a flood sweeping away the unprepared and destroying poorly defended cities. And here is the truth few dare to accept. If you are not strong enough to control your life, chance will do it for you. And luck, in Machiavelli's view, is a fickle lady. She favors the bold, but despises the weak. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "Fortune is like a turbulent river, which, when enraged, floods the fields, fells trees, destroys buildings, and carries earth from one place to another. Everyone flees from it. Everyone yields to its fury, finding no strength to resist. Yet, despite this, nothing prevents people in calm times from taking precautions by constructing dams and barriers." This metaphor should resonate within you like a warning bell. The world is unpredictable, cruel, and indifferent to your dreams and empty promises. Those who hope for luck without preparing for it are doomed to perish. Only those who build inner dams, a disciplined mind, and an unyielding will can withstand the storm. And here, virtue comes into play, one of the most profound concepts in Machiavelli's philosophy. Virtue is not virtue in the moral sense, but an inner strength, the ability to adapt, to act boldly, intelligently, and steadfastly in the face of adversity. It is strategic thinking and the skill to shape circumstances rather than being subjected to them. Virtue is discipline in action, the manifestation of the ability to stand firm when everything crumbles, to create opportunities where others see only despair, and to resist the childish urge to blame fate for one's own failures. Niccolò Machiavelli held that human greatness is not determined by blind chance. On the contrary, great individuals themselves defy fortune, subjugating it to their will and using it as a tool to achieve goals, rather than as an excuse for inaction. They construct dams in advance, preparing for the coming flood, and diligently develop discipline within themselves to be ready for crises that demand immense willpower. Great men train their minds for upcoming battles, while others remain in carefree slumber, lulled by the illusion that everything will somehow sort itself out. Looking at one's life with utmost honesty, it is worth considering. How often have you relied on circumstances to change for the better on their own? How many times has the desire arisen to hide behind the excuse that now is not the right time for decisive action? According to Machiavelli, fortune is indeed unpredictable, but it is by no means omnipotent. Those who blindly rely on luck are doomed to defeat, while those who cultivate virtue will surely triumph. In the modern world, the concept of discipline has lost its original meaning and has become a common commodity that can be bought off a store shelf. Wrapped in bright packaging of self-improvement slogans, it is presented as an easy and accessible trick. We are led to believe that disciplining oneself merely means developing a set of automatic habits, using special apps and colorful planner charts. It creates the impression that humanity's oldest battle, the battle for self-control, can be won with simple phone reminders and motivational quotes. However, such a view is nothing more than a grotesque farce. Machiavelli, were he alive today, would undoubtedly ridicule this naivete. He understood perfectly that that true discipline cannot be comfortable or easy. It is not a simple add-on to life that can be installed like software. Discipline is always pain. It is a declared war against everything weak, lazy, and cowardly that lurks within each of us. The reason for failure lies in the fact that modern society has accustomed people to seek easy paths. We are convinced that merely finding the right habit will magically fix life. However, true discipline is born not from comfort, but from encountering difficulties. It is not about waking up with inspiration and enthusiasm, but about acting even when the body desperately demands rest, when the mind tries to persuade itself to give up. Machiavelli taught that those who await the ideal moment to act have already failed. Preparation must occur in calm times, long before the storm arrives. Discipline must be developed on monotonous days, in quiet moments, in the invisible battles we fight alone with ourselves. It is in those unnoticed efforts that true strength is forged. Modern thinking treats failures as perfectly normal, as an integral part of the process. We are taught to be too lenient with ourselves, to reward ourselves for every minor victory, as if life were a competition in self-esteem rather than a matter of true survival. And while we lull ourselves with excuses, our potential rots from within. Modern discipline is emotional. It depends on mood, motivation, and external environment. The discipline Machiavelli wrote about, however, has a structural foundation. It ignores mood and despises motivation, representing a mental fortress built of stone, not emotions. Those who wait for the right moment, who wait for the ideal alignment of stars to begin acting, are like cattle led to slaughter, waiting for someone else to decide their fate. To forge discipline capable of creating empires, one must make sacrifices inaccessible to most. This means abandoning the pursuit of comfort and embracing pain as an integral part of the process. Hardship becomes an ally in this forging, and the mind transforms into a training ground where weaknesses are not merely tolerated, but eradicated. It's time to discard useless theorizing. To achieve victory, discipline must become a harsh, daily, and unwavering practice. It is not enough to merely understand the importance of discipline as a concept. It is necessary to create a structure so robust that no room is left for laziness, fear, or doubt. As Machiavelli taught, a wise ruler foresees impending calamities and builds defensive fortifications in advance. The same should be done with the mind. Develop internal military strategies before the battle begins. If each morning begins with waiting to see if you are in the mood to act, then defeat is already predetermined. The outcome of the struggle is determined in the early morning hours, even before the world realizes you have entered the game. Here is a concrete method, consisting of two key elements. First, it is constant vigilance and daily self-observation. Every day, without exception, one must analyze their own thoughts and actions, like a general inspecting an army before battle. Ask yourself, where are the oversights occurring? At what moments do emotions take over? If you allow the slightest habit of laziness, an innocent excuse, or a foolish distraction to take root, know that these are cracks through which failure will penetrate your fortress. Imagine the mind as a castle. Every act of laziness is a stone knocked out of the wall. Every postponed task is a catapult aimed at one's own fortifications. Constant vigilance means that even in peacetime, one must inspect defensive structures daily, immediately remedy defects, and ruthlessly suppress any signs of deterioration. Second, It is necessary to implement clear strategic routines that eliminate the need for decision-making. It is important to realize the harsh truth. The brain, left to its own devices, will always choose the path of least resistance. Every decision requires energy. Every doubt drains willpower. Machiavelli taught that in times of uncertainty, the wavering are doomed to perish. Therefore, building discipline begins with minimizing the number of daily decisions. Strict routines are not shackles, but a path to true freedom. Establish fixed times for waking, working, studying, and training, and adhere to them as steadfastly as a soldier follows orders on the battlefield. For example, if you postpone the decision to exercise until the evening after a hard day's work, it is highly likely it won't happen. The brain sabotages efforts, but if you transform exercise into an unconditional obligation, integrating it into your daily routine as an inherent part of your identity, there will be no room for internal compromises. The workout simply happens, period. The 3 pillars of unyielding will. Relentless reinforcement, backed by tangible consequences for every failure. In the harsh reality we inhabit, every action carries consequences. On the battlefield, a mistake is not just an oversight. It is often the line between life and inevitable death. It is necessary to create a system of consequences that will force one to realize the cost of every step. If established rules are neglected, there must be immediate, tangible, perhaps even painful retribution, so that the mind clearly grasps failure is an unacceptable outcome. As a practical example, consider a public commitment. If you fail to follow an established routine, you should donate a certain sum of money to a cause you deeply despise. You must admit your weakness to friends, feel the burden of shame and loss. And most importantly, you must realize that discipline is not only about anticipating rewards, but primarily about avoiding complete collapse. To solidify this idea, consider the analogy of a soldier in training. He doesn't deliberate whether to run a 5-kilometer cross-country in pouring rain because he's overflowing with motivation. He runs because there is a strict hierarchy, because he perfectly understands that disobedience will lead to punishment, disgrace, and possibly even expulsion. The mind must function on the same principle. Obey not because it is convenient, but because it is right. This is a truth many refuse to accept. Building true discipline is voluntarily shackling oneself before life itself does. It is transforming harsh trials into a daily ritual. It is waking up every morning and, without indulging in self-pity, relentlessly moving towards the intended goal with the cold resolve of a ruthless commander. Knowledge not backed by action is nothing but cowardice. Many, hearing these words, will feel their sharp truth, yet will choose to return to a habitual way of life, full of excuses, procrastination, and self-sabotage. They will once again become hostages to their own impulses, slaves to their own weakness, begging for crumbs of luck and cursing fate. But there will be those, the few, who will make the choice that transforms ordinary people into shapers of their own destiny. The choice to stop being managed and start managing. The choice to build true discipline not as an adornment for bright days, but as an indestructible mechanism supporting all existence. Niccolò Machiavelli taught that governing a state without discipline is a sure path to chaos and collapse. It is now evident that governing one's own life without discipline will lead to precisely the same consequences. The mind is territory, habits are troops, decisions are military strategies. A choice must be made, to become a prince or remain a prisoner. There is no middle ground. There never was. Perhaps some believe there is still time, that they can start tomorrow, next week, or when circumstances become more favorable. But Machiavelli warned, a prince who waits for the ideal moment to act will be overthrown by the first wave of misfortune. The moment has arrived. While there is still strength, while there is still an opportunity to build the walls of your inner fortress, you must discipline yourself not for pleasure, not for approval, and not for aesthetics. Discipline is necessary because life depends on it, because freedom depends on it, because greatness demands it.